Hi, I'm here at Palo Duro Canyon. This was one of the final engagements of the River War. Following the Battle of the Second Adobe Walls, many Comanche, Kiowa, Southern Cheyenne, and Arapaho left their reservation in Indian Territory. They went into the plains of North Texas and the Panhandle to hunt and raid. The U.S. government responded with force. General Philip Sheridan directed 5 Army columns to converge on the Texas Panhandle, specifically the upper tributaries of the Red River. The plan was to deny the Plains tribes any safe haven and attack them until they returned to the reservation. Colonel Randall Mackenzie commanded 3 of the 5 columns, the 10th Cavalry, the 11th Infantry, and the 4th Cavalry under Mackenzie himself. About 20 engagements took place within the Texas Panhandle. Most of the engagements were small, with actually few casualties, but frequently devastating to the tribes. When the villages were attacked, warriors would fight the army while their women and children would flee to safety. Once they were safe, the warriors would withdraw. However, the village would be in the possession of the army. The army would then destroy food, lodges, equipment, and horses. The Indians would then be left destitute with no option but to return to the reservation and surrender. One such engagement was the Battle of Palo Duro Canyon. Palo Duro Canyon was an oasis on the Llano Estacado, a canyon filled with springs and creeks which watered lush areas of green willows and grass. It was almost invisible from the plains above it, and few white men knew of its existence. Comanche and Kiowa could camp in relative safety, hunting buffalo and building their winter food supply. That summer, the canyon was filled with the camps of Comanche, Cheyenne, and Kiowa. In early September, Mackenzie's Tonkawa and Seminole scouts were ambushed by Comanche warriors in the State Plains. This attack alerted Mackenzie to the fact Comanche camps were in the region. He therefore established a supply camp at the Tule Canyon, a side feature to the greater Palo Duro Canyon. On the morning of September 28th, Tonkawa scouts informed Mackenzie they had discovered a fresh trail. Soon the colonel had his troopers on the march. At dawn, they reached a point they could see lodges in the canyon below. Dismounting, the troopers led their horses along a narrow, precipitous trail down the canyon's wall. Someone discovered the soldiers and fired a warning shot. The camp of the Kiowa chief Lone Wolf was the first hit. Women and children fled as warriors skirmished with the troopers, climbing up the canyon walls. Each troop, as it reached the canyon bottom, charged the village. Since their camps were scattered over a large area on the canyon floor, the tribes were unable to assemble an effective defense. Most of the Indians abandoned their belongings, even horses, and fled up the canyon walls to the open plains. The warriors fought, sniping at the soldiers from 800 to 1,000 feet above. By nightfall, the troopers and scouts had captured the villages and most of their possessions, along with about 1,500 horses. Casualties on both sides were light. The Indians' losses were 3 warriors killed. Mackenzie had 1 trooper wounded. Almost all of the tribe's possessions, however, including their entire winter food supply, was destroyed. The troopers drove the captured Indian horses back to their camp at Tule Canyon. Though the casualties on both sides were remarkably small, the loss of goods, food, and horses was catastrophic for the tribes. There was no way they could survive the winter. Over the next months, many returned to the Indian Territory reservations. The Battle of Palo Duro Canyon is significant because it represented the Southern Plains Indians' last effort at military resistance against the encroaching settlers. One final comment on the Battle of Palo Duro Canyon is the fate of the Indian horses. After driving the horses to his supply camp at Tule Canyon, Mackenzie selected the best 500 for his men and the scouts. The rest, about 1,000, were slaughtered to prevent them from falling into the hands of the tribes. The loss of the horse ended the mobility of the Southern Plains tribes and their way of life. The following day, the troopers and their allies pulled out of the canyon, leaving the carcasses of the horses to the vultures and the coyotes. Soon, only the bones remained, and after a few years, they also disappeared. Not long after the slaughter of the horses, stories were told that late in the night one could hear the sound of stampeding horses in the canyon. Some people even claim to see ghostly herds. These phantom horses, some say, appeared to remind us of the massacre. Thank you for watching the video. I appreciate it greatly. Please give a like, make a comment, and subscribe if you have not. Thank you.